This is so fun, people. Okay, today, the power of the mind. I don't know that this is really going to attract a lot of people unless you're into this stuff. Um, okay, so I had made a previous video. I think it was called Not a Coincidence, and I'm going to start there. And I have to do a little bit of explaining because I think when you start talking about some of this kind of stuff that I'm going to, again, it can sound really fantastical and just out of this world to you, because I remember how I used to think. Even people saying things like anything is possible and with the power of your mind, like you can make anything happen and like all these sorts of things, right? So I love it that Dan's son, he's the Canadian firefighter that I talked about, he used the term, or his therapist or somebody thought of it for him, as a tragic optimist. And what I mean by saying, this is again for people that haven't really listened to me before, that my attitude when I was growing up, I would say it was negative. Like, I would say it was negative because of my disgust for the world and society, right? So I was always into activism, if you haven't heard me talk, since the age of 14. And it was towards society, media, government, all of that sort of stuff, which you can go research on your own what I'm talking about and how my music helped me. Okay, so I would say, right, tragic optimist is a great way to explain it, because I don't know that I would, like, I knew the benefit of positive thinking. It's just that I found solutions for myself that worked, and that made me feel good, right? And then I started reading more personal growth books and started pursuing those sorts of things. So even in my disgust for the world, I was still highly attracted to Buddhism, and I did grow up in a Baptist church. That's the part of my funny story, is that um, there's a funny part in there. But anyway, so growing up like that, it wasn't until like my early 20s. Okay, so we're speeding up to there. We started reading a lot more of these books, and so The Secret, you may have heard of, Law of Attraction, all these sorts of things. Um, some people, a lot of people know about it, but a lot of people don't. And so that show, I talked about coincidences, and I was trying to explain how I can say they aren't coincidences because of my experience, right? And I learned that there was a divine order. So the coincidence was these things that happened that would show me that there were connections in life. Okay, so it was like, oh, that's weird that happened, but I wasn't putting it together, just thought it was weird because I didn't know anything about an afterlife. I didn't know anything about anything. Really, I had an interest in that world and ghosts and things like that. But at that point, I wasn't having any weird dreams. Like, things started happening into my sleep, like my early 20s, whether that's getting contacted by the other side or whatever it was, just weird stuff in my sleep. Okay, so that explains that. So I wanted to talk about law of attraction, um, the Secret, the movie book, and then also intuition, which we all innately have, but a lot of us either ignore that or whatever it is. It's kind of all, I don't know how to say this, like all lumped together, because intuition, I know that's the inner knowingness, right? I guess to say it's a natural psychic quality, right? When you think of somebody and they call or they text you, that's the best way to describe it. Also, gut feeling. Did I say that already? Okay, gut feeling. So speeding it up. So for what I was going to talk today, the power of the mind, and I think I talked about this in my Unlock Your Truth series, but I'm going to give you the very first example. So this is like so sticks in my head, just like as the, the pivotal moment. But before this happened, I remember sitting there at like my mom's vanity sort of a thing, in Thailand, and I was sitting there and she was reading like my mind, basically, like just talking. She's like, "Why are you thinking about your dad?" And she would always be, like talking to herself and things like this. And on this part of mental illness that comes about later, but I was like, I always thought that was rad, right? To have some sort of ability like that to read people's mind. And I always wanted to be able to. Okay, so we all have these little qualities. Some people are born with them more enhanced, but you actually can develop them, which just sounds crazy, like that you can develop them more, but it's like exercising your brain, making your brain work in different ways. Okay, so all that I remember is that, so I don't know when that happened with my mom. I don't know like at what age or whatever, but speeding it up is when I had met my boyfriend, husband, um, later down the road, is that he's very, very, very protective. Um, and I had always wondered, like, oh, I wonder, like, what would happen if anybody had ever messed with me. I think it was like a fleeting thought. I don't really know that I thought about it very much, but it was so dramatic what happened that I was like, oh my God, like that was unreal. So we went to a bar that night, and a random stranger pulled out a bar stool like from under me, like I went to sit down and they pulled it out from me and I fell on the floor. And yeah, I'm sure it was very hilarious to a lot of people. But anyway, the boyfriend at the time, boyfriend husband at the time, was nowhere to be found. Like he was probably somewhere drunk across the room. But after that happened, that was like, I feel like the pivotal moment of like, I made that happen. And that is a very realistic moment. I can give you tons of more other things, like I said, about these storytellings of basically I would think something and then it would happen. And what was another thing to talk about today with doing this show, because I've been wanting to talk about these different things for a long time, and it's not because I'm fearful of sharing it or who's going to believe me or anything like that. It's more so that it's just freaking kick ass when stuff happens and you did it. And two things happened today. And so this has been over 20 years, I would say, that I can give you all the different examples, but I'll tell you what happened today actually is that I said I was out with my friend who we always have such great times laughing, so therapeutic. And I said, we were getting coffee, and I said her husband's name, and some guy came up who happened to buy her a coffee because she gets them for her magnificent smile and everything, which I need to do more, had the same name. Okay, so that was psychic thing number one. Number two is my mother-in-law got these pair of Vans that I have always as a gift. Which by the way, I really try to not talk shit about that, but that's like always back in the day is like skateboarder shoe, even though back then like there's no arch support in them, the stripe on the side. That it has become part in California here of just like the pop culture, just kind of like people wearing Thrasher shirts and things like that, Thrasher magazine, and don't even know what it is. So those of us people like me, I try to not talk shit about it because there's a lot of kids wearing that and people that don't even know anything about it. Anyway, I could go on and on talking shit about that, but right, who cares? So anyway, she was wearing these Vans and I'm like, I have always wanted the blue pair. And I don't know that I will ever buy Vans again. Uh I said that I had always wanted a blue pair. Guess what? Like 10 minutes later, I drive down the street, and I'm not even going to say I went in really fast to this fast food place, and because I was just so starving, and dude in there was wearing the blue Vans that I wanted. And I know you're probably going to say I'm so dumb and stupid that I'm even putting that together, but what are the odds of that happening, people? So I just had to share with you those two things today and also put my interjection in there talking shit, because I always talk about love and all these beautiful things, but I'm a shit talker too, people. I just think I do it in more of a gentle way and comedic way because I've learned from one of the best. Okay, so These sorts of things, though, that have been happening to me for the past 20 years, but over the past 2 or 3 years, these thoughts that I have happen even faster, like within 5 minutes. If I even told you all the stories of the cafe that I used to work at, and every time the damn first responders and firefighters, I would think of them and they would drive by or they would come in, or customers too. I would be thinking of somebody, I would be doing something, and I would turn around and they would be there. And I was like, this is some crazy ass shit. So even still, this is normal to me. It is not, because I still get weirded out. So, if you want to say that that's God, Nora, that's God showing up and showing you, okay, okay. So, because I know this, it's like when I started finding out, well, what else can I do? What else can I create? And I would say it has caused an addiction in these things that I can create. So, I have made almost everything in my life happen that I want. So, with that being said, I always come from love, and I do have a special formula. But not everybody can do this. Anybody can do this. It's just your intention. And I can help people get to that feeling. You actually have to have the feeling in your body. This is what I'm saying for me. I mean, people do it through meditation and visualization. Of course, you're doing that. But for me, because there's a difference between thinking and knowing, right? Knowing that you are loved and feeling that you are loved, two different things. So, that is for another segment. But my special formula, I have a special formula for how I create. And another thing that you might say that I am dumb about, but it's really simple things, because it's things that you can practice on. For those of you that are serious about this and are really listening to me in these videos and want to know what the hell this Nora girl is talking about and how it can help you, right? I feel like it's all that it is. A lot of us is, yes, it's the bonding and I can relate to you or whatever, but how can this help me? How can you help me? What is this damn coaching thing? There's all this free stuff all over the internet. Like, what is it? Well, when you find somebody or something that resonates with you, or just even going to say, God, you're religious, you whatever, you already know these sorts of things, but maybe this is just going to take it to another level. Right, so you're going to ask God every time you are going to do this or this or this. But maybe I shared with you, okay, do it in this way. Think of this song, think of this movie, whatever, whatever, okay? Get these props or whatever it is. It's just going to enhance. Okay, so before this gets to be way too long, the other things I've practiced on, I feel like some of this stuff is not new to people because you've already been doing this kind of stuff. You just didn't really put the two together. Like, hey, I did that. When I thought that, like I made that happen. So I'm going to give you some really basic examples. Parking spots. There will be a parking spot for me. That's it. You have to be very confident in your request, right? And even better when you say thank you. Okay, so put in the request, very self assured. It is done. Thank you. So you don't have to do that every time. I'm just giving you an example. Okay, the parking spot. And if you didn't get it, right, it wasn't meant to be, it wasn't divine timing. And that's another saying too, right? It's not meant to be. Like, if you're not religious, you already don't even know that there is a meant to be or a divine order or anything. What the hell is going on? So when I say that, I understand. So but you can make life work for you. This is shopping. I've done this with, they're going to have my lip gloss, or there will be a short line at the blah blah blah, or I won't have to wait on the phone very long, or I'm going to get a really compassionate person. So flipping the negative to the positive, when I realized that I could get a result and make life work for me, just started doing it with everything. So since I am, like Dan's son, tragic optimist, he as well, he and I, is that this is how I live. I already know what it's like to be in a negative way of thinking, and I still get in those places. I'm definitely not perfect. After you go through all this personal growth stuff, it doesn't mean you're just over it. It's just I have different ways to deal with it. And at this point, I think I'm letting go a lot of my old ways, like subconsciously, or the evolving, or the age thing, or whatever's going on in the world right now. um, I'm letting go a lot of those old belief systems. And so I don't know, when I realized that I could create, and I overcame a lot of negative thinking about myself, it's like that part just empowered and strengthened me more. Okay, so no matter what your beliefs in, you don't, I would say, if you were to believe in anything, it could just be the logical, anything is possible. Anything is possible. It is endless. So, what do you want to practice on? I mean, if it is a significant that you want to enhance your life and whatever it is you're looking for, it really literally is getting a piece of paper and writing down what you are looking for. It sounds really stupid and simple, but a lot of people don't do this kind of stuff, and that's why I say journaling is so important, and asking questions to yourself and things that you have the answers inside. And especially when you cannot, somebody is not available, like to talk to, you can't, whatever. This is why you would not believe the types of answers and how much writing you can do by just asking, just asking questions to yourself. Again, even if God or Source or whoever it is you're talking to that helps you, still you can write it down on a piece of paper, praying, all these sorts of things, but you have to be confident that hearing enough stories, hearing enough people talk, the examples that I just gave you, um, there's so many other sorts of things, but always thinking positive, and always things, even like, because there's certain things that are so many rules and so many structured things, it's like just asking a person something that they don't have on the menu. Like, that's another good way to practice, right? It doesn't mean they can't make it, it doesn't mean they don't have it, but because you ask the question and you put it out there, um it's positive thinking. That's why this is all mindset training. Okay, and letting go of the rigid structures of what we have grown up around. And the newer generation, they are more evolved, they're more conscious, there's all this information on the internet. And so they are becoming, not becoming, they are just, I guess, more open. That might be the word, more open to all this sort of stuff that I'm talking about, because it's not the first person talking about this for the very first time. I think, though, it can sound, um, again, not something maybe you can practically apply until you hear these examples like this. I could give you so many examples, but really I'd have to write them down, because there's so many little things. Okay, so I will end this video and I will talk to you next time. Hopefully this provided some sort of value. And yes, that's all that I'm going to say for today. And I'll talk to you next time.